Vernon Schubel. I'm a professor in religious studies and Asian and Middle East studies. I've also been a musician for most of my life and still play out and write songs and in the music scene here. The three albums I picked are not, they may not be my most favorite albums of all time because that's too hard to pick. I decided to bring stuff I had on vinyl, and I decided to bring things that are special to me. So I thought I'd bring some things that I wanted to say specific things about musically. And the first album I brought is Lucille Has Messed My Mind Up by Jeff Simmons. This is a rare record. When Frank Zappa started his own record label, Straight, he put a lot of really interesting musicians there, and Jeff Simmons was about 20 or 21 years old when he made this album. Afterwards, he went on to play with the Mothers of Invention. It's hard to sort of describe what this record is. It's got very surrealistic lyrics. Frank Zappa plays two amazing guitar solos on this. One on a song on Lucille Has Messed My Mind Up, which he later recorded, and another on a song called Ray. He also wrote one of the songs on here under a pseudonym, a song called Wonderful Wino, which he also later recorded. This album came out in 1970. You can see he looks very much of the era. You see this wonderful picture here. This is one of my favorite records of all time. It took me years after I had lost it to find a CD copy when it was re-released on CD in 2007, and I finally decided that I would spend more money than I should looking for a copy online, and every time I would find one, I would get a message back from Discogs, we can't find it, it's just been sold.
Do you listen to streaming services at all? Or
I don't listen to streaming services. It just doesn't feel right. Spotify, the artists don't get paid anything, and they're starting this new movement of trying to make radio stations pay the artists, not just the songwriters, which sounds like a really good thing, but it's not. It's to start shutting down terrestrial radio so that all you can listen to is the streaming services. And they can, The thing is, you know, the fact that I can look and have a record that I bought 50 years ago, right? And I can still put it on and listen to it because it's still there. Is this stuff that's being streamed now on Spotify, is it still going to be there? Is all the music of your generation going to be gone in 50 years? Because that's not that long. My favorite song on this record is a song called Appian Way. It has very surrealistic lyrics. The musicianship is amazing. It's got the other guitar player who plays on this is a guy by the name of Craig Tarwater, who later went on to play on Arthur Lee of Love's solo album Vindicator, which is a really obscure fact, but Craig Tarwater is also a really brilliant guitar player. I was turned on to this when I was dropped out of college in 1970 to be in a rock and roll band, and the guitar player in that band had played in California on a tour with his band and Moby Grape and some other people who went on to become very big. And he had an amazing record collection, and he turned me on to lots of stuff because I was like a 17-year-old kid dropped out of college and getting exposed to music. But if you get a chance to listen to this absolutely amazing record from 1970, Lucille Has Messed My Mind Up by Jeff Simmons. I may be a boomer, but I still buy albums by people who are, young and alive. Adrian Lenker, I think, is an absolutely brilliant songwriter. I've got lots of Big Thief at home. All three of the women in Boy Genius, I think, are great. Bill Callahan from Smog. My son really turned me on to these guys, though. This is Andrew Jackson Jihad. They don't call themselves this anymore because it's an offensive name. And when they got a little more adult, they decided they would change it to just AJJ. But this record is, for me, the epitome of the best kind of folk punk records that are out there. My favorite song on this is the song on side 3, People 2, The Reckoning. It's hard to say. Sean Bonnet is a brilliant songwriter. He's got a quirky, sort of sarcastic voice, but the records are they're all about body dysphoria and anxiety and feeling ill at ease in the world, and yet underlying it is a really sublime, almost mystical humanism. It's hard to put together exactly what this is about. Social anxiety and body dysphoria are such a part of your generation. The way in which he captures that sensibility, but there's still a hopefulness in it. It's and the records are funny.
Yeah.
This is one of the records that connects me to people of your generation, because I do think that a lot of people of my generation do not give credit to the absolutely amazing music that's being produced now, because it's not the music that people hear, right? I mean, everybody knows about Taylor Swift, but I don't know anybody else in their 70s who knows about Adrian Linker, and that's a tragedy. AJJ, people who can eat people are the luckiest people in the world. That's a quote from Kurt Vonnegut. If anybody has been a major influence on me as a musician and as a songwriter, it's been Richard Thompson. Richard Thompson is one of the great songwriters of the last, well, he made his first album in the late 60s, I think it was, and his new album just came out a couple months ago. A colleague of mine in California once said that Richard Thompson playing a Stratocaster guitar is all the evidence you need that God exists. In the 1970s, he and his wife and co-partner, they're no longer married, Linda Thompson, joined a Sufi order. This album was written at when they were deeply involved in Islamic mysticism. And one of the reasons I got involved in this is, I teach Islamic studies, and I'm, deeply interested in Sufism, and he plays really amazing guitar solos that are, impressive technically. The guitar solos on this, however, are more Mozartian in their simplicity, but they're absolutely stellar, and particularly the two lengthy songs on here, Night Comes In, and Beat the Retreat. Very simple but elegant, amazing guitar solos. No effects pedals, just, through a twin, I imagine it's a twin reverb with vibrato on it. Absolutely fantastic. His wife doesn't write the songs on it, but you'd think she does because she's so intimately, emotionally attached to them. And she has one of the great voices in rock and roll that unfortunately she suffers from a neurological disease where she can't sing anymore. So she recently released a new album called Proxy Music, in which other people sang her songs, and it's really great. If you haven't heard Richard and Linda Thompson, this is a good place to start. It's my favorite of his albums, and that's it. And
I noticed that record is signed.
Yeah, is it signed?
Oh,
There's
yeah,
a story
oh yes,
behind
I
that.
can tell you, yeah. No, I went to see him at there used to be a record store in town about 20 years ago that's no longer there, and the guy in there said, I know you're a Richard Thompson fan, I've been invited to a showcase in Columbus, if you want to come, you can come. So I went and had the album, and he signed it for me, yeah.
Wow.
So this is a prized possession.
Do you find yourself just always listening to music, or are there certain
Yeah.
times of day it's just constant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually own both the Walkman, but also an MP3 player, because I want to be able to hear music decently. And I normally have music on when I'm grading papers, or when I'm, if it's stuff I know really well, I can listen while I'm reading and preparing for class, because I don't have to concentrate. But now I've got music on all the time.